Welcome back to Imagine Recaps. Today we will recap a spy action film called James Bond, Casino Royale. Be ready for spoilers ahead. Two vehicles drive into a muddy rebel military base in the African country of Uganda, and stop outside a hut surrounded by fully armed child soldiers. A man called Le Chiffre steps out of the vehicle as he had been invited by the rebel leader called General Abano. General Abano opens several metallic suitcases containing $120 million in cash, money which Le Chiffre had promised to launder and make it legally accessible from anywhere in the world. And after the money is packed and he had left the military base, Le Chiffre calls his close associate, as he is planning to manipulate the stock market to launder this huge amount of money. On the other side, in a shanty town in the country of Mozambique, two MI6 agents James Bond and his partner Carter are following a small bomb maker called Malaka who they suspect is carrying a bomb. Malaka receives a text message instructing him to move and immediately starts moving. Unfortunately, he sees Agent Carter touching his ear and immediately know he is after him, and very quickly, Malaka fires several shots in the air to disperse the crowd and uses that chaos to escape from Carter. But before he could get far, Bond starts running chasing after him. He tries running through thick bushes but James Bond is still hot on his heels. But after neatly jumping over a small fence, he increases the distance between them and temporarily manages to lose Bond. He even slows down, now trying to look for a hiding spot, but Bond comes crushing into everything using a caterpillar he had hijacked, easily locating him. Malaka runs and starts climbing up a nearby construction and James quickly follow after him. They climb higher and higher, until there was nowhere else to go, forcing Malaka to jump onto a suspended cage carrying metal pipes. He then uses the cables to climb up towards the crane. Bond also jumps on top of the cage but instead of using the cable like Malaka, he releases the cage below carrying him up until he catches up, and the two start fighting on that narrow ledge dangerously high, not caring who will fall. Bond trips but manages to hold himself before falling, giving Malaka another chance to escape. He jumps down from the crane and lands into the building and once again escapes. Bond also jumps but unlike Malaka, he lands badly but survives. Malaka runs and enters into a nearby Namibia embassy and Bond sees him from a distance, so he goes to the back and jumps over the fence unnoticed. This time he catches the terrorist off guard and immediately starts beating him up. Unfortunately, the alarm is sounded and all the soldiers protecting the embassy quickly starts converging towards their location. Bond tries fighting back but he is greatly outnumbered, forcing him to jump out of the window trying to escape, but is very quickly surrounded by the armed soldiers, and when he realizes he could not win, Bond drops his gun and releases the prisoner as if he is surrendering, and in that confusion, he quickly draws another gun and shoots a gas tank behind them, blowing it up, and by the time things settle down, Bond is nowhere to be seen. He had escaped with Malaka's bag and sure enough, it had a bomb inside it. He also took his cell phone which only has one text message written ellipsis. Back in London, Bond breaks into his boss's house and hacks into the MI6 database, and when he searches for the origin of the text message sent to the now deceased bomb maker, he tracks the message back to the Bahamas inside a hotel called the Ocean Club, and when his boss returns and finds Bond inside her house, she is not amused to see him, as the news of an MI6 agent blowing up the embassy had made worldwide headlines. Although this is a very bad image for the English government, it is all part of Bond's plan, as he is sure once the sender of the message learns that his bomb maker is no more, he will have to find another one. So Bond flies to Nassau in the Bahamas where he believes something even bigger was being plotted, then travels to the Ocean Club hotel where the message was sent from, and immediately he crashes a car on the parking lot to distract the guards, allowing him easy access to the surveillance room which contains all the CCTV footages. He checks the footage on the day the message was sent and although he is not sure, he spots a man driving a very beautiful vintage car, sending a message and suspects he is the man and decides to investigate him. Later on, he spots the man and his beautiful wife and confirms he is still around, and when he does more research, he discovers the man's name is Alex Dimitrios, a very close associate of well-known internationally known criminals, including the money launderer Le Chiffre. Later on, Bond dresses up nicely and joins Alex on a table where they were playing blackjack, and when his beautiful wife Solange walks in, Bond quickly learns he does not treat her right, and with that simple observation, Bond knows with a little bit of seduction she would easily say everything about him. And after losing all his money and car to Bond, an angry Alex walks out, leaving his wife Solange behind. When Bond sees her walking home by herself, he quickly swipes in and offers to take her home, but instead of taking her to her house, he takes her back to his place and sure enough, the woman completely gives herself to him. She receives a call from her husband and Bond overhears him saying he is going to Miami, and once he finds out this information, he leaves Solange lying on the floor and heads to Miami, Florida. At the same time, Alex is also arriving and Bond starts following him around. He places a black bag on a shelf nearby and hides what looks like a key on a table just next to him. Unfortunately, Alex sees him, so he holds him with a knife to his back, but Bond very quickly overpowers him and stabs him in the stomach, killing him. But in that commotion, another person had picked up the bag and started leaving the airport. Bond quickly takes Alex's phone and calls the number that had sent the ellipsis message, and sees a man receiving the call carrying the black bag. He follows him into the airport, trying to figure out what he was up to. The man enters into a changing room and changes into a guard's uniform. He then breaks and opens the airport sprinklers, causing panic as everyone starts running around. He uses this commotion to make his way out of the building into the employees-only section, where he steals a police car and drives towards the runway, but Bond spots him from far and immediately knew what his target is. He is targeting a prototype of the biggest airplane in the world, which is about to be unveiled for commercial use. The man quickly hijacks a gasoline tanker and plants a bomb underneath it, but as he is driving away, Bond sees the dead body on the ground left behind and starts chasing the tanker on foot, and as it is passing by him, he jumps on top of it, nearly losing his grip and falling, and when the man sees him dangling on the back, he rams against another truck, forcing Bond to jump before getting squashed. The man tries driving off, but Bond runs after him and manages to catch up. He tries ramming head-on into a bus, but Bond manages to climb and hold on to the truck. By this time, airport security are also chasing after this rogue gasoline tanker. Bond jumps into the front seat and the two start fighting. The cops shoot down the tires trying to stop it, but this does not seem to help, as the heavy truck ram into the police cars, completely damaging them. And when they pass near a plane taking off, all the light police cars are blown away, leaving only Bond to try and deal with the terrorist. Unfortunately, the man overpowers him and manages to almost kick him out of the truck, but Bond holds on. He sees the small bomb beeping, and as the man is preparing to jump out of the truck, he quickly hangs it on his trousers, and the man unknowingly jumps out with the bomb. Bond tries to slow down by braking, but the brakes are not working, so he rams against the police cars nearby and manages to stop a few meters before colliding with the plane. And when he jumps out, the police quickly swam in and arrest him, and for the terrorist, he sends a message to trigger the bomb to explode, only to discover that Bond had attached the bomb on him, and he blows up. When Bond goes back to his hotel room in the Bahamas, he is horrified by what he saw, as he finds Solange's body tangled in a net on the beach, slowly decaying, and by the look of things, she was first tortured before being brutally murdered. M had also found something that connects the attempted plane bombing to Le Chiffre. She had found that Le Chiffre had bet against the airline's stock, hoping that the plane explosion would tank their stocks, gaining him a lot of money, but when the mission failed, he lost over $120 million, the money he was given by General Albano to launder. So to try and recover the money he had lost, Le Chiffre had set up a high-stakes poker game at a place called Casino Royale in Montenegro in the hope of winning the money back, with an entry fee of $10 million where the winner would take home over $150 million. And since Bond is the best player in MI6, M had entered him into the competition and instructed him to not only win the competition, but also arrest Le Chiffre. So Bond takes a train heading to Montenegro, where he meets with his new partner called Vesper Lynn, sent by Treasury to deliver the money to him. And thanks to Bond's charming character and good fashion, she quickly falls for him, which is an advantage as she is to play his lover. And after arriving in the capital of Montenegro, they both take a cab to Casino Royale, where Le Chiffre had already made a reservation for them. They also meet with Renee Mathis, an MI6 contact in Montenegro who is supposed to provide protection in case things go wrong. That night, Bond dresses up sharply and goes downstairs where the tournament is to be held, and for the first time ever, he meets face to face with Le Chiffre. And after confirming that all the 10 players had deposited the $10 million required to participate in the tournament, all the players sit down and the game begins. At first, Bond starts playing recklessly, risking more than he should and ultimately losing a lot of money very quickly. Vesper is not pleased at all by his reckless behavior, as by the look of things, Bond would be the first to be disqualified. So to calm her down, Bond walks up to her and kisses her. Then he explains that he is doing so to understand Le Chiffre's strategy, and so far, Le Chiffre is relying on blind luck and pure bluffs and does not have a solid strategy. During their break, Le Chiffre quickly goes upstairs to his hotel room as his wife was calling for him, and immediately he enters, he is struck from behind by General Albano, who had eventually learnt that Le Chiffre had lost his money, and as punishment for losing his money, General Albano removes a machete, wanting to cut off his wife's hand. At the same time, Bond and Vespers, who had bugged and are listening to the entire thing, start making their way up the floors. They reach just as the two men are coming out and quickly pretend they are kissing to conceal their identity. Unfortunately, General Albano sees an earpiece on Bond's ear and immediately knew he is after them. He removes his gun and shoots them, but they narrowly manage to escape, and when they attack, Bond pushes the bodyguard down the staircase, killing him. General Albano attacks them using the machete, forcing them to jump downstairs trying to escape. Vesper tries to escape through a nearby door, but the door is locked. But when the two men fall down the staircase, Bond is able to hold him from behind while choking him as hard as possible, until he suffocates him to death. After properly hiding the bodies, Bond quickly cleans himself and returns to the table as if nothing had happened, and although Le Chiffre does not say anything, he notices the bruises on Bond's face. The next day during the game, things start looking up for Le Chiffre, as he goes on a winning streak, winning almost every round. He ends up even winning almost every single penny from Bond, so much so, that Bond takes a knife and decides to end his nice guy persona, but is held back by another player, who was an undercover CIA agent also after Le Chiffre. The CIA agent offers to give him the money as he is the only one who seems like he could actually win, and when he returns to the playing table, Bond lowers his ego and raises his head. This seems to work as he starts winning round after round. He is given a drink and immediately he drinks it. He quickly realizes he had been poisoned by Le Chiffre, who is willing to do anything to win. So he quickly leaves the table as he slowly starts to become disoriented and manages to stagger to his car. And at this point, Bond starts going into cardiac arrest. He removes a defibrillator and attaches the leads to his chest to shock his heart into working again. But before he pushes the red button, Bond loses his strength and passes out, and for a moment, all hope seemed lost. Luckily, Vesper comes and shocks him back to life, and to Le Chiffre's surprise, Bond sits back at the table and seems to be fully healthy and ready to go on. As the game goes on, Bond removes his cord in order to fully concentrate, and when his turn comes, Bond pushes all his chips to the table, staking a total of $14 million, and upon seeing this, Le Chiffre also stakes all his money, and at this point, there is over $150 million on the table up for grabs to anyone. They start throwing their cards on the table, each smiling thinking they had won, including Le Chiffre. But when Bond's turn comes, all their smiles are immediately wiped off, as Bond had won the tournament. After everyone else had left, Vesper and Bond remained behind to celebrate winning, and for Le Chiffre, the two are sure it is only a matter of time before he is either arrested by the CIA, or killed by his own associates. Vesper stands up and leaves, claiming that Mathis is calling for her, but Bond senses something out of the ordinary and quickly runs after her, and sure enough, he reaches just as Vesper is being kidnapped. He quickly runs into his car and starts chasing after them. They drive into the countryside and Bond follow after them, driving incredibly fast, but as he is making one of the bends, he finds Vesper lying on the road, forcing him to drive off the road before hitting her, and after his car rolls several times and stops, Le Chiffre removes a badly injured Bond from the car wreck and kidnaps him. The two are taken to an abandoned warehouse where no one could hear them scream. A chair is placed in the middle of the room and its bottom cut off, and after removing all his clothes, Bond is made to sit on it, completely naked with his balls hanging from below. The fear on Bond's face could be clearly seen as he knows exactly what Le Chiffre is planning. But before Le Chiffre start torturing him, he gives Bond one last chance to peacefully give him the password to the account where all the winnings had been deposited, and when Bond hesitates to talk, Le Chiffre takes a rope and begins hitting his hanging balls. Bond cries loudly and painfully, due to the immense pain he is experiencing, but completely refuses to give the password. Le Chiffre tries hitting him even harder, but no matter how loudly Bond cries, he still refuses to give up the password. Le Chiffre knocks him to the ground, wanting to cut off his balls and feed them to him, claiming Bond does not value his manhood. But suddenly, the door is kicked open and a man holding a gun walks into the room. Le Chiffre tries to beg the man to spare his life as he is in the process of getting them their money, but the man opens fire, shooting and killing Le Chiffre. When Bond next opens his eyes, he is in a safe location as the unknown man who killed Le Chiffre had not harmed him or his partner Vesper, and although the injuries he had sustained are too gruesome, one kiss from Vesper totally restored his broad and beautiful smile. She sheds tears of gratitude, as she is more than grateful to him for risking his own life just to avoid hitting her on that road. The banker, who is responsible for keeping his winnings, brings them a suitcase in order for the funds to be transferred to Bond's bank account as per the tournament's agreement. Instead of the two going back to work, they head off to the beautiful city of Venice, Italy to spend quality time together, and by the look of things, the two are totally in love, so much so, that Bond even sends a resignation letter to MI6 in order to spend all his time with his lover Vesper. One day, Vesper wakes up early and puts on a nice-looking dress as if she was going somewhere important. She then promises Bond that she is going to transfer the money back to the MI6 treasury. But later on, Bond receives a call from M claiming they had not received the money. He quickly contacts the banker, only to be told that the money had been withdrawn in the Venice branch, and for a moment, his heart sinks and he fears the worst. He quickly runs out of the hotel trying to locate Vesper in the crowded city, and spots her carrying a briefcase and starts following her. She goes further and further out of the city until she comes to a dark alleyway, and what Bond sees next completely breaks his heart, as Vesper hands over the briefcase to a shady-looking man, confirming his worst fear, that she was only pretending to love him to gain access to the money. Unfortunately, Bond is seen and the mercenaries start opening fire, allowing them to escape, but this kind of betrayal is too personal for Bond to just let go. So Bond removes his gun and begins going after Vesper, taking out anybody who stood on his way. They enter and barricade themselves in an old building and take position ready to kill Bond when he enters. But Bond shoots the inflated air balloons at the bottom, and uses the commotion to enter into the building. They try shooting at him, forcing Bond to shoot a second balloon, keeping the building afloat. This causes the building to start crumbling as water rushes into the building. Bond uses this to his advantage, as he slowly creeps up to the mercenaries and start taking them out one after the other. And before long, he had eliminated all the people except one, Vesper. Unfortunately, as the building continues to collapse and slowly sink into the waters, the lift where Vesper is hiding also follows suit, as it slips and falls into the water. And without a moment's pause, Bond immediately jumps into the water and swims towards her. He tries to pull the door open but is unable. Vesper comes close and holds his hand, seemingly trying to say sorry, but she soon loses her strength and begins to drown, all as Bond watches trying to break the door open. And by the time he manages to bring her out of the water, her body had already gone cold and still. He tries performing CPR on her, but this does not seem to help at all. The heartbroken man could only watch the lifeless body of the woman he loved, the woman who pretended to love him deeply, but was only using him to get the money. Please like and subscribe for more.